Okay, so this is a recently read. It's a wrap-up, it's a recently read. I'm also speaking English because it is 6:05 p.m. If you don't know the rules, all through July I have been speaking Japanese all day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's 6:05 and I'm tired. Yeah, I previously pre-filmed this video and it was just June reads, but while vlogging myself speaking Japanese, and I don't know, it's like a video log of like how this is going, which, spoiler alert, it's tiring. It's exhausting. I'm tired. I accidentally deleted my entire June wrap-up off of my camera. Like just straight up, just boom, gone. Because I needed more room and I didn't realize what I was doing. Probably because my brain is so exhausted. Without further ado, these are the 9 books I most recently read. First, I'm going to talk about both Redemptor and Raybear, which obviously this is Raybear and this is Redemptor. Both are by Jordan Ofueko. This is a duology that I have now finished. This was a huge major goal of mine. I wanted to finish this duology for such a long time. Honestly, since Raybear came out, and now that I've finished Redemptor, I feel really freaking good about it. Raybear follows our main character, Terasai, and she is half Jin and is growing up in a household where she's being trained to become one of the council members, the Council of 11 for her kingdom. She's always wanted to have a family, but her mother has always been very cold and distant, so while she reveres her, she also feels like she's completely alone, and she's looking forward to becoming one of the 11 council members. However, the caveat is, she is half Jin, and her mother commands her to kill the heir to the throne once she gains his trust. This was a fantastic book. There's so many layers to it. I love the friendship dynamics. I'm always a sucker for friendship, and that did continue on in Redemptor. I gave Raybear 5 stars in my reread, but Redemptor I ended up giving 4. This is a fantastic conclusion to Raybear. It had the same euphoric feelings that I had from the first one, but this time there were a couple instances where I felt a disconnect with the characters. I felt like they weren't connecting very well, and I think that there was a pacing issue. I did actually realize on my reread of this one, it also has pacing issues, but the vibes and feels I got from this one just overrode it, and it was still a 5. These pacing issues kind of came from me having a really strong expectation for where the story was going and getting to this moment that had kind of been promised in book 1 and it taking a really long time in book 2 and being a very short portion of it. I don't want to get into it too much because I don't want to spoil anything. The climax of this book took a really long time to set in on this one, so I kind of felt like we were starting from square one in a lot of ways. Ultimately, the miscommunication trope kind of got in the way of this one, and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. So still a fantastic book. Really happy with the series overall. Will probably recommend it for the rest of my days, and I can check it off of my series TBR because it's complete. Next up is Psalm for the Wild Build. This is by Becky Chambers, and oh my gosh, what just a soft, sweet book. This follows a tea monk named Dex, and they are just a little bit burnt out from their passion. Their passion is making tea and bringing it to different villages and really like helping people feel better and listening to their issues, kind of like a bartender but for tea. And Dex is just a sweet and wonderful little being, and this story takes place not really on Earth but some other planet, and I just loved the world. All machines in this world have kind of like quit, like deuces left, gone to the forest to like find themselves and be with nature. The humans of this world, I don't know if I'd call them humans, the beings of this world, go ahead and live completely without technology, are very advanced in other parts of their lives, but technology is kaput, everything is manually done, and I really liked the small aspects of this. You could feel kind of like camping vibes while you were reading it. This would be great for a camping trip, just something to read by the fire. I really just loved the feelings of this one. It's not really too much of a plot. It's more of like a conversation, and it was a really good conversation. One of the main conversations in this book, I think, is about existing and not existing for any other purpose other than existing. There can be passions, there can be hobbies, there can be drives and motives that push us forward, but just plain existing should also be okay. And I definitely plan on continuing the series. I think it might just be a duology, but I'm hoping with enough momentum there's more that could be explored and other conversations to be had. I really liked it. It was good stuff. Then my promise book was A Dowry of Blood. This was by S.T. Gibson. It's a Dracula retelling from Dracula's bride's perspective, and it also has a polyamorous relationship, and I just loved the narration style. The prose were beautiful. It had such a good gothic atmosphere. If you were just wanting that classic vampire, definitely pick picked this book up, A Dowry of Blood was lusciously morbid. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars, mostly for the way that the characters were introduced. I felt like it was just one introduction after another, and I didn't get enough time to really bond to each character, but I did feel the bond between all of the characters together. While I do recognize it as a polyamorous relationship, I could also see a lot of platonic love between all of the characters, so it was just really interesting to see. I just liked all of the character dynamics, and again, unparalleled as far as like just vampire Dracula vibes. So do watch out for content warnings though, specifically with gore, along with mental, emotional, and physical abuse, and you know, flat out murder is also in this book. I then have the book Wayward. Wayward is about 3 generations of witches and the hardships each of these women have with witchcraft. Oh my god, with witchcraft in their lives. Our main protagonist is a woman in about 2018, 2019, modern times, modern eras. She doesn't have to deal with COVID though, so that's nice. And she is fleeing from her husband who has been physically abusing her. She flees to Wayward Cottage because it was left to her by her Aunt Violet, who had recently passed away. Violet is one of the other perspectives we are following, and we follow her in the 1940s, growing up in a society that has specific norms and expectations for her, and she does not match any of those. She likes to play outside, she likes to collect bugs, she's very scientifically inclined, and instead she has to get married. Then in a third perspective, we have... what was her name? Okay, I'm gonna be honest, this is the perspective I actually didn't really care for, and it was around the 1800s. It was more of a traditional witch trials story. I didn't connect with it as much, so I did forget her name. But all 3 of these women deal with the antagonist being not really religious problems with witchcraft. Their magic is kind of innate, and instead they're dealing with society issues, mostly coming from men. I would say that that is one of my biggest qualms with this entire book, was that I felt it was really lacking in anything new to give. It didn't feel like it had a modern take despite having a character in modern times. It was very much so binary in its narrative, and it was very straightforwardly men bad, women good, women in witchcraft even better. Which, if you've been on my channel for a while, you know is not really my vibe. So I did struggle with that aspect of it. I kind of expected more from Wayward, I'm not gonna lie. It did give me a lot of what I was asking for. I was just a couple months ago asking for a witchcraft book that focused more on the softer side of magic, that focused more on the natural and the nature and the nurturing part, and less on the fantastical and the occult aspect of it. And this book did that. These women had innate magic in them, generations of them either being raised with it or having to find their power and gain it from understanding their ancestors. Lots of good things to be had there, not really anything too new. I have found these aspects in other books before. I am seeing this touted as a cozy fantasy, and I'm not sure if I would quite place it there. I would say 2 out of the 3 perspectives could definitely possibly be put in that. The other woman is on trial. She's in a really high stress situation for witchcraft, murder that happens. They explain the gore of the body, and she's possibly going to be hung. There's like a betrayal. It was just very much so an intense situation, and it felt very tonally different from the other 2 perspectives, which did kind of interrupt my reading as well as not create a cozy atmosphere. Violet's perspective was at many times cozy. It was set in the 1940s in the countryside outside of London. You had this small manor house and these children growing up, but there was a lot of intensity in how the children were being raised, how the father treated the daughter, some different abuse issues, and then finally there was also a content warning for sexual violence. I don't know if I would call this a cozy fantasy. I would say that it had cozy aspects as far as like cleaning up and taking care of your home and finding solace in a place, but I'm not sure if I would really tout this as a cozy fantasy, because I know people are looking for a way to find something calming and soothing, probably uplifting their mood and making them happy, and I don't think that's what Wayward did. I did really enjoy it though, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. If you are looking for just a lovely, almost like fairy tale, I feel like I could read this book to my children. I don't have children, but I'm ready. I'm excited. Like, go Baby Fever specifically to read my child Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. It was so wonderful and clever and cute. It's part of Brandon Sanderson's secret projects, and this story is about a girl named Tress who is growing up in a small island and falls in love with a boy who is then sent off to marry another girl and ends up being captured by a sorceress. Tress then takes it upon herself to go rescue him, and along the way joins a group of pirates. So many cute and chaotic things ensue. I cannot wait to own this physically so I can go back and annotate it. There wasn't a page in that book I did not enjoy. And I would maybe say, while this is a little bit more higher action and there is a quest aspect, this felt a little bit more of a comfort read, a cozier fantasy than say something like Wayward, whereas it's a more quiet, long story. Tress felt fast-paced but comfortable. So maybe not cozy but comfortable fantasy. I ended up giving Tress 5 out of 5 stars because why wouldn't I? It was phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal, I finished Harrow! Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Because Harrow the Ninth is obviously filled with spoilers, it is the second in a series, I will briefly remind you for the rest of your lives. This is Gideon. Gideon the Ninth. Gideon is a character who is raised on a planet that she very much so wants to get off of. Gideon does her best to get off of this planet and then ends up in a situation where there's a murder mystery, trials, tasks, and it's a necromancy space opera romance. Nobody's lying. It's fantastic, guys. Guys! Okay, I will also say, just because I have had a few comments of people saying they're going to be picking this book up specifically because I'm in love with Gideon. You know, I've been talking about it a grotesque amount. I will say, you're not supposed to know everything that's going on while you're reading this book. I just want to say that. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of chaos. You're going to be reading the first few chapters and you're going to be like, what? And that's okay. I also was like, what? But I was kind of like, fun what? Go into it with fun what? And you'll be fine. Just don't go into it expecting to know every bit of detail and exposition and world building that they're throwing at you, because these are people that live in that world and they're just immersing you in. You're gonna assimilate. You're gonna be part of it. You just have to kind of wait and let it happen. I had given Gideon 5 out of 5 stars because 5 is as high as I go in star ratings. Harrow felt like a 6. I got to the end of Harrow and 5 felt like such a low number. This does take place primarily in second person, and I don't want to give anything else away, but I do want you to know that going in, because like, this is a wild ride. It worked so well. It makes so much sense. This had to be done the way it was, and oh my god, it just added so many more fun layers and aspects to the series. I cannot wait to read Nona. It was really hard not to read it this month, but I knew my brain was going to be tired. It is. And I knew I wanted to take a break so that I could savor it. I can't wait to pick up Nona. I really just can't wait. I am going to get the physical copy though, because I didn't get to tab Gideon. I tabbed Harrow once I got to the book, but I need to just go through and do a reread. I might do a read along. The next book, Alecto, is coming out eventually. It's all kind of mysterious as far as Goodreads go, but when Alecto's release date is announced, or we have like something solid, like a cover, something to go off of, I might be doing a readathon for these, or a read along. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, I gave Gideon, I don't know, 6 out of 5 stars. Absolutely phenomenal. The last few chapters of that, I was screaming. I actually was physically screaming. Like, I just kept on, like, obviously I was not well. What else was there? Oh, my next promise book. Oh my gosh. Freaking cute. Adorable. I loved this book. Let me tell you what it was. The Many Half-Lived Lives of Sam Sylvester. This is by Maya McGregor, and oh, it was so cute. There were so many things I loved about this that I was not prepared for. First off, I'm from Alaska. I spent all of my summers in Oregon. Portland, Oregon specifically is where my grandma lives. I was shipped off to my grandma's. So many times we would go to the Oregon coast and Astoria. The setting of this book takes place in Oregon on the coast. It just had that vibe. I was like, yeah, this is Oregon. I truly believed I was in Oregon, and it gave me such, not homesickness, but just like warm home vibes. I needed it this month. I don't want to give away things for my vlog that's coming out, but like, I was having a little bit of a hard time with how much Japanese culture I'm taking in, how much Japanese language, and then just getting to relax and go home for the evening was so nice. I sped through The Many Half-Lived Lives of Sam Sylvester. Let me tell you what this book is about, because I've just pretty much told you like my emotional attachment to it. Sorry. So Sam Sylvester has had a rocky past, and they and their father have moved to the small town of Astoria, Oregon to start over. Sam Sylvester also has autism and is struggling with different social aspects in their lives, not just with their autism, but also with their gender identity, as they are both non-binary and queer. And they just moved into a house where an unsolved murder happened. Sam Sylvester decides to take it upon themselves to solve this murder while also getting to know everyone at school and dealing with the blowback of a traumatic event that happened to them recently that caused the move in the first place. There was so many things going on in this poor kid's life, and they dealt with it like a rock star. I freaking loved Sam Sylvester. I am not usually one to pick the main character as my favorite character, but you cannot help but root for Sam at like all times. I also freaking loved the dad. 10 out of 10, I want that dad. Well, I don't want the dad like, I love my dad, but like, I just want the dad as a friend? I don't know, he seemed kind of old. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I just really liked the dad. Oh, this is a mess. Yeah, so Sam Sylvester was fantastic. It was fun, it was light, the stakes were high, but each moment just felt sweet and nurturing. Dealt with social issues and problems, but it also like didn't have suffering the entire time. There was horrible things that happened to Sam, but there was also moments of levity. There was moments where you were expecting the typical thing to happen to this kid on page where you're like, oh great, you're gonna have to deal with this. Oh great, this is gonna happen. And sometimes it didn't, and it was just so nice to not just have an entire book based around queer suffering. So I gave The Many Half-Lived Lives of Sam Sylvester a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I don't know where Cozy goes, but I can say it was a comforting read for me personally, as well as I think it being comforting for other people. Content warnings still apply, things having to do with being misgendered, also bullying or violence towards people in the queer community, and just overall homophobia and ignorance. Those typical things are dealt with in this book. They're just not at the center focus of each scene. If those are things that really trigger you, take care of yourself, make the decision for yourself, but know that I did find a lot of this book really quite soothing, and I think a lot of people would benefit from reading it. Finally, recently, as of like yesterday, I've been just consuming English media after 6 p.m. like madly, insanely consuming any bit of English I can grasp onto because my brain is craving it like my body craves water. So I started, read, and finished The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Morena Garcia. This was drama, and I really liked it. While the other books were like comforting, but also had these fundamentally like warm aspects to them. So many of the books I read recently have been like hugs. This one wasn't a hug. It was kind of like getting told really good gossip and then getting to watch part of the drama play out while also having nothing to do with it. It was like a train wreck I could not turn away from. This is a really cleverly written book. It has fantastical elements. It was so much fun. I also really enjoyed the antagonist perspective in this. You get the protagonist, the antagonist, the foil, like you get these perspectives, and it was so good because you had moments where you were rooting for each one of them. I admit, in the beginning, due to the perspective, due to the way that things were being portrayed in The Beautiful Ones, I was kind of rooting for the antagonist, and it took me like a hot minute to be like, wait a minute, stop being mean. It was one of those things where like, it was just really well written. What is The Beautiful Ones about? I don't want to give too much away. And like the whole dynamic of this, the plot is real thin. It's mostly this character relationship. You have a man who is in love and infatuated with this aristocratic, beautiful woman who is helping debut her cousin-in-law who really likes bugs, insects, and chilling in the dirt. And then you have her really liking the man who's infatuated with the beautiful woman. So I guess I explained a love triangle really convolutedly, but it's like, the hell is The Beautiful Ones about? God, I don't know. Maybe Downton Abbey meets the Night Circus? No, if you like Regency romance, if you like people debuting at the ball, if you like hot gossip and just watching your friends entangle themselves in situations and trying to get themselves out of it while you don't have to deal with it, I think you'll really enjoy The Beautiful Ones. It's clever, it's well written. Silvia Morena Garcia knows what she's doing with words. She knows definitely what she's doing with characters. She definitely accidentally tricked me in the beginning, only in the beginning, into rooting for the antagonist of this book. And then I realized, I remembered that I'm not a horrible person, and I didn't want them to win. But I really enjoyed The Beautiful Ones. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars because obviously I can't describe the plot because they're There was sort of one, but it was mostly just people and feelings. That was enough for me. It was really good. I guess I'll also let you know what I'm currently reading just so we can just kind of be up to date. I know I was about 2 weeks off of my initial video release that I was supposed to have, but that was mostly due to fatigue, work issues and scheduling, and then finally deleting the only content I had for you because I have 2 other videos, but one of them is a vlog and it's ongoing and it has to do with me only speaking Japanese. So like, you know, I was low on content and low on fuel. What am I currently reading? I am currently reading This Is How You Lose the Time War. It's really short and it's very fast paced. I am enjoying the banter between the 2 characters and I kind of wish I didn't know the main pitch of this book, so I'm gonna give you an even shorter one. This Is How You Lose the Time War is about 2 spies who have a correspondence with each other despite being on opposite ends of a time loop war in which they're trying to ruin each other's time periods. It has a lot of sci-fi aspects, espionage aspects. I feel like if you don't know what is missing from my synopsis of this book, then you should go ahead and read it now before it's spoiled for you, because I think the main stakes, the main question I should be asking myself, I already know the answer to based off of what people say about this book. And it's so short. Like, I'm not blaming anyone who's ever given me a synopsis of How to Lose the Time War. I'm just saying I wish I didn't know it, so I'm not going to give it to you because I care about you. Ugh. I'm also reading Divine Rivals. This is by Rebecca Ross. This is my first Rebecca Ross book, by the way. And she's fantastic. She's phenomenal. I'm having a really good time. I think I would say so far Divine Rivals feels like a mixture between... Oh! I have the perfect comp title. I think Divine Rivals is pretty much summed up between The Lovely Wars and God Killer. These 2 books meshed together feels like Divine Rivals. I'm digging it. It's really good. Yeah, I'm reading it for a book club. I'll have it linked down below if you'd like to join us. It's very low-key. I'm only 5% of the way in though, so you know, take everything I'm saying right now with a grain of salt. Then I'm also reading Kagami no Kojoka, also known as, what is the English title? Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Sujimura. I am only listening to this on audiobook when I really want to listen to a story, because from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm only engaging with Japanese media, music, video, all things Japanese. I'm also obviously conversing with my coworkers, but if I'm like bored at my desk, the times where I would normally be listening to an audiobook, sometimes on my bike ride home or walking to the station, those gap moments where normally it'd be filled with an audiobook, I needed one of those. By one of your recommendations, I picked up, what is it in English? Lonely Castle in the Mirror. I think it's good, but I'm listening to it only in Japanese, so I'm getting like small little aspects of it. I am documenting that as well in my vlog. There's gonna be a vlog that comes out eventually and it's gonna be like, it's gonna be a hot mess, but it's gonna be my mess and you'll better understand why I'm just not here. Think I'm enjoying it? I don't know. The narrator in Japanese, her voice is so beautiful. I listen to it on the train sometimes and it almost lulls me to sleep. I pretty much just bought it and downloaded it from like a website that she had posted. So I'll link things down below if that's something you're interested in, but I can't recommend it yet because I kind of get what's going on, but it's in the vlog. So, I'm really tired. I think I've said that about 1 billion times. These were all the books I read. This doesn't look as impressive because most of them are digital, but yeah, I read 9 books recently. Really enjoyed them. I hope one of them sounds good to you. I would love to know what you've been recently reading. You can also put those recommendations down in the comments and it'll go into my promise jar for books I will be reading. So far, promise books have been a ton of fun and it's the only book I'm guaranteed to read, which has been really nice because as soon as I finish it, I feel like the month was a success, even if I didn't read anything else. If you have a book you'd like to recommend, please put it down below. If you've had any books on the thoughts I've read, please let me go to sleep. If you've had any what, Jade? If you've had any thoughts on the books I've read, go ahead and put that down below as well. And whether you do or not, I hope you're enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are. And until next time, bye!